Hello everyone, and welcome to Chapter 5 of my Call of the Armor 0% Growths Low Turn Count playthrough. After a pretty lengthy interlude, Chapter 5 is refreshingly pretty simple, at least as far as the main path is concerned. This is a kill boss map, where we need to move from the bottom left to the top right, and you might notice that I only really need like 2 units to accomplish that goal. Shale and Noki, the dream team since Chapter 1, is back at it again, and they're pretty good at dealing with main objectives, as you might have figured. But I still have quite a few deployment slots filled out, and that's because Chapter 5 is full of side objectives. We have a lot of things we want to accomplish in the short term, and Chapter 5 is a really good place to get started on those. Our 2 biggest goals are getting Kim and Mac to level 10. Kim you're familiar with if you've seen the interlude. Mac is the monk that we just recruited. He's the one that has yet to move, and we want to get both of those units to level 10. Kim needs to gain 2 levels in 2 maps, and Mac needs to gain 5 levels in 4 maps. Kim, at least for now, is on a much tighter schedule, so we will be prioritizing her for a lot of kills here. And this little arrow rig is to help with that. Thankfully, it's the only arrow rig I need to do in like the entire map, which is really nice because I get just an irresponsible amount of low percent crits. Kim, you might have seen in the preps, literally only has the killer lance as far as weapons go, so that should have given you a hint as to how often I'm going to be rigging crits with her. Didn't rig a crit on that guy because it wouldn't have killed. But yeah, pretty much every time Kim attacks here is going to be a crit because, man, does she need to grow quick. And thanks to that arrow rig, Kim is not the only character that you're going to be critting. Hazel here gets a nice 2% crit, and Floor gets a nice 5% crit. I didn't actually intentionally go for those, they just happened to stumble. I happened to stumble into them while I was rigging for Kim, and, you know, they make this turn a whole lot easier, because turn 2 is by far the least consistent as far as surviving goes. Kim and Killian get a couple more crits because I really like that sound effect, and that's just what they do, you know? But yeah, as you can see, all of the enemies are kind of converging on this big middle area, and anyone that's not killing an enemy or disabling them with stone, as you can see here, is just going to be crowding into that middle area to try and make some kind of defensive formation. I did put that Lance Reaver Mercenary to stone, even though I probably could have rigged him to not kill anyone, because that guy's really irritating. He's got really high skill, really high speed, and I don't like the cut of his jib. I don't like him one bit. Mac already needs to dodge like a 50-something. Floor also needed to dodge that 50-something. Both of them would have died. Thankfully, no one else was in mortal peril, but that mercenary guy totally would have doubled Mac. Mac is the magic-focused monk, which is why we're focusing him. We want extra staff range. Hazel, his buddy there, is the speed-focused one. They're both pretty good, so you'll probably get to know both of them throughout the early game of this run. But yeah, Mac when he has the speed to double, can really cleave through enemies, which I also really like. Right here, you're finally going to see Shale and Noki kind of burst free of the rest of my army and kind of go off on their own towards the boss area. The rest of my crew don't really care. Noki needs to be there to get rid of that stationary shaman wall that's blocking the boss. But, yeah, it just needs to be those two handling the main objective. And Philip and the rest of this gang are just gonna, like, feed Kim some kills and make sure Mac doesn't die. And kind of chip at this stoned guy because he has a droppable that I want. He drops his Lance Reaver. That'll be really nice in Chapter 7. And probably a couple other maps. And there are two big side objectives up in that top left corner. Obviously you could see the village there. But this knight also has a stealable, which I really want. After a slight amount of rigging from behind the scenes, we can crit kill this little shaman here. Noki did need a crit to deal with that, as you might expect with stats like that. But here you can see why I chose Shale to be the boss killer, despite the fact that I don't really care about how he grows, because his general's pretty fast and pretty beefy, even on the resistance side. And without the hammer, you can't really kill him over 2 rounds. Shale was the beefiest hammer user, and he also had an extra point of movement over someone like Philip. Bit of an oopsie, I forgot to get rid of that goddess icon from the last map, but I do want to steal this red gem here for even more money. And now Luan is going to visit the village for the Dragon Shield, which, you guessed it, is even more money. I just love money. Which is why, even though I can kind of go hog wild with the Killer Lance, I decided to cheap out and just tickle this guy for 2 damage with the Iron Lance. But, seeing as Kim got a level, and everyone else got the kills they need, we are going to kill the boss with Shale here, and finish up Chapter 5 in 4 turns. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you for Chapter 6.